I'm Bill Bishop. I'm the CEO of the Big Idea Company. And I'm very glad that you're here today to hear this presentation about big ideas and the future of business. So, we're going to do three things here today that I think you're going to find very beneficial. One is we're going to think about the future of your business. What's that going to look like? How is it going to be different than what you're doing right now? And in a world where we have lots of things changing and all this new technology like AI coming along, we really have to start thinking about that. The second thing is I'm going to teach you a process of innovation called new factory thinking. And I've had so many people, when they've learned this way of thinking, that their brains have just exploded with ideas and they've seen opportunities to make money and build these amazing businesses that they couldn't see before because they were using what I call old factory thinking, which was keeping them trapped. So I'm going to give you a whole new way of thinking as well about the future. And the third thing is we're going to just talk about big ideas and help you come up with that really exciting big idea for your future business, which is something new, better, and different that takes everything to a much higher level that people will only be able to get from you. Okay? So that's the point of investing the time and attention today in this presentation called the Big Idea Advantage. How to use advanced innovation thinking to stand out, level up, and build the future business of your dreams. So that's what I want you to help you do. Build a future business of your dreams. This is your chance right now to do that. So what I want you to be thinking about while you're listening to this is, what is your big idea for the future business of your dreams? And that word dreams is kind of key. So part of this methodology is to not compromise at all on the future. It's to say, I'm going to think about what would be the absolute ideal business for myself and my company in the future. What's the business of our dreams? And we believe that's one of the best business strategies, because if you aim for that, even if you get 95% of that, your business is going to be incredible. So there's no point at this point compromising on our vision. What's the future business of your dreams? Now, I suggest that you use these three criteria to build that future business. One is that you want to make 11 times more money. So that's not revenue, that's profit. 11 times more money. So I'm assuming you would like to do that, right? The second thing is to work 50% less. I'm not asking you to work more here. I want you to work less, okay? So start enjoying your life more. And the third thing is to have 100 times more fun. 100 times more fun while you're running your business, and 100 times more fun in your life. So none of this is a promise. I can't promise you that this is what's going to happen to you based on this, but this is what I'm hoping you'll aspire to. Because as soon as you do this, you got to start thinking differently. You can't get this by scaling up your existing business. So I've read all these books about scaling up and 10 times your business and this and that. And I think they've got one thing wrong, is that they're helping you scale up your old business in a way that's just going to help you maybe make more money, perhaps, but you're probably going to work more. And I don't know if you're going to have more fun. So there's a whole different way of thinking about scaling up your business. And you're going to learn that in this presentation. So wouldn't that be great, though, to have that? Wouldn't those be amazing things? And I can tell you that I've actually done this 4 or 5 times now in the last 25 years, is that I created a project to do this. I got that. And then I said, okay, great. And then I did it again and again and again. So this is the way forward to have a really incredible business and an amazing life as well. So as I said, we're going to use new factory thinking. Now this is my terminology, and it's an innovation process that anyone can use. And as a matter of fact, It's used by companies like Google, Apple, Amazon, Facebook, Uber, and all those very famous, very successful companies that we're all familiar with. Um, and what we've done is we've studied what they do and why they got to be so successful. And we say, you know what, you could use those business strategies too, that way of thinking too. So I'm going to teach you what those companies do and show you that even if you have a one-person solo business, solopreneur business, that you can use the same thinking that's used by Apple, Google, Amazon, Facebook, and so on. Okay. So that's what's really, really cool about this. You don't have to be a giant corporation or anything to take advantage of this. As a matter of fact, smaller businesses can use this even more because you don't have all the bureaucracy to deal with here. So I'm going to teach you this different way of thinking. I had one guy, he learned all this. And then he called me one morning. He says, Bill, I couldn't sleep last night. And it's all your fault because when I learned new factory thinking, initially I was kind of not sure. And then it kind of all kicked in. And now I was up all night with so many ideas of what I could do with my business, and like things I'd never thought about before. And it's your fault because you taught me this way of thinking. So I'm one of the things I'm pretty sure will happen is you're going to have more ideas than you could ever use to make all kinds of new kinds of money because of this way of thinking. Now, I put all of that information about new factory thinking, if you want to go into even more detail, in my book called The New Factory Thinker, which, of course, you can find on Amazon if you wanted to read it, along with my other books like How to Sell Lobster, which I'll talk about in a minute more. But this has been many, many years in the making that we've been developing this process. And this book has been very successful because like even just the last week, I talked to someone, they had read it, and they said, this is a total game changer. I've been reading this book, and you've opened my eyes to all kinds of possibilities I just never imagined before. So that could happen for you. So you don't have to read the book. We're going to talk most about this today, but some people like to also read the book as well. So what does that future business going to look like? Is it going to be what I call an old factory, which is based on the past, like a kind of a past-based business, or is it going to be a new factory based on the kind of business that are going to be successful in the future? So the biggest mistake I see entrepreneurs making, and also the bad advice that some of them are getting from people, is that it's all old factory thinking, and they're trying to help them build a business that really would have been fine in 1890, but not in the 2020s. Like we're in a whole different world, and we need to operate in that world. So I'm recommending that it be a new factory. So the other analogy that I use for this will your future business be a hot dog stand, or will it be a gourmet restaurant? And I'll get more into that in a minute. But essentially what I see is most old factories are kind of like a hot dog stand. And if they think of growing a business, it's like, well, I'm going to figure out how to sell more hot dogs. And I go, you know what? That's maybe not worth trying to do. It's much better to try to build a gourmet business because that's when you can make a lot more money, 11 times more, and work less and have more fun. So we're going to show you how to build the gourmet business while you keep operating your hot dog stand. Now, the other thing is I'm going to introduce a whole bunch of ways of thinking that are going to challenge everything you've ever learned about business. And that's part of the territory I operate in. So a lot of people blame the messenger. Some people actually get mad at me for all the stuff I'm just about to tell you. And other people are like so excited, but there are people who really get their back up about it. And it's interesting, but mostly because I'm essentially challenging everything they've ever believed about business. So I guess that's kind of a nasty thing for me to do. But when I get to this point of having that kind of resistance, I ask them this question. Imagine that you were working at Apple computers in 1998. Now, I actually worked for Apple during the 80s and early 90s. I was essentially their spokesperson in Canada. I started off selling computers for them and became essentially their spokesperson, so I really knew the company quite intimately. And up to that, during that time, they were a computer company, right? I was helping them sell computers. But during the 90s, they almost went out of business twice. So this was very bad. Okay. And I was really worried that they would go out of business. So in 1998, they had a meeting to think about how can we sell more computers, right? And they went around the room and everybody had their ideas. And someone put up their hand and said, maybe we should sell music. And so we know what happened there, that they actually did that. And that really completely turned around their business. And it led to all the other things they did, like phones and watches and movies and apps and everything. It completely opened up their business, went way beyond just being a computer company. But imagine if you were in 1998 and you're on the advisory board and the person says that, maybe we should sell music. How would you have voted on that idea in 1998? Now, if you're being honest, even I would have voted no. And I would have said that the reason I'm saying no is because, well, we're not a music company. We're not in that industry. We don't know anything about music. We're a computer company. Why would we sell music? And that's what I call old factory thinking, because we're locked in to a particular way of thinking about our business. We think we're in a particular industry and we sell a particular product, and that's all we should ever do. That's it. Okay. So back in those days, we would have said no. But it was good that they said yes, because it opened up their mind to all kinds of other things that they could do. And now they're one of the biggest companies in the world. And they actually sell twice as many computers now as before because they have so many more customers buying so many other things that eventually most of them end up buying an Apple computer. So it's actually the best strategy to sell more computers was to get into music and all these other things. So this is what all these other companies did, like Amazon, Google, Facebook. They didn't just stick with their original product and industry. They created what I call value hub that went well beyond that. And this is the key to new factory thinking, is we need to break out of our old factory. We sell a particular product, we're in a particular industry thinking, and move into creating all kinds of value that we can make money from. Okay, so I know that our thinking is going to stop us, but I'm going to help you get past that. So old factory thinking typically puts us into the hot dog trap, I call it. And this is when we're running a low margin commodity business, essentially, where we sell basically the same things as our competitors. Now, we might go on and make a big to-do about how our products are better or our services are better. But the key is we're selling the same products and services. So in the marketplace, you kind of look like you're all selling the same thing. And so it's very hard to stand out from everyone else. It's very hard to level up your business. It's very hard to scale that kind of business because you have so much competition, price competition, the margins are very low. And that's why a lot of people are, not only are they not making more money, but they're actually working more and having less fun because their businesses become very commoditized. They're running a hot dog stand. And if we stay there, we could be in big trouble. The most likely businesses to be disrupted by AI is any business that's a one-trick pony that's selling something fairly basic and commoditized. That's where our biggest danger lies there. So a lot of people are going, I'm not selling a hot dog. I go, well, relatively speaking, I think you actually are. I know it's hard to admit that, but that's actually what the heck's going on. So that's a trap, right? Now, new factory thinking helps you start building a gourmet premium business where you sell something new, better, and different that takes everything to a much higher level that people will only be able to get from you because you're this amazing gourmet chef. Okay, so that's the vision. Is what we're going to do here is figure out how you can be a gourmet chef and have a premium business. It is actually the only future for almost every business ultimately, because on the low end, the hot dog side, I think AI is going to really pick off most of those kind of businesses. So the only future really is to be a gourmet kind of business. And believe me, this is a much better kind of business, right? Because you charge, instead of $3 for a hot dog, you charge like $300 for a meal. And you're being paid for your creativity, not your time and labor. And you only have to work a certain amount of hours, very few compared to the hot dog stand, and you make way more money. Okay, so this is really what we want to do, and that's why this analogy is so useful, because a lot of people grapple with this because they just can't really admit they have a hot dog stand. Okay, so I had a guy that was like that. He was a financial advisor, and I'm in Toronto, Canada, and he was up in North Bay, which is about, I'd say, 6 hours north of Toronto. All right. And so he drove all the way down to Toronto to meet with me the first time. And I started talking about hot dogs and stuff. He said, I don't know if I'm really selling a hot dog. I don't know. I don't know if that's working for me. I don't understand why you're saying that. I said, okay, well, think about it. So he went back, and about a month later, he called me and he says, I got to come and see you again. Okay. I said, really? You want to drive all the way? Yeah, I got to come and see you. So he came down and saw me, and he said, Bill, I get it now. I said, first thing is, what I feel is I'm running the most successful hot dog stand in North Bay. Compared to all my competitors, I'm the most successful hot dog stand. I said, well, I guess that's okay. He says, yeah, no, it's not okay. He said, I have a friend who runs a business that, he doesn't work as hard as me. I don't think he's as smart as I am. I don't think he even cares about his customers as much, but he just made this huge sale, this big life insurance sale. And now he's going to get this huge commission and be able to take the rest of the summer off, maybe the whole year off, while I'm slaving away at the hot dog stand. And I said, well, why didn't you sell that big gourmet meal? And he said, I was too busy running the hot dog stand to see that bigger opportunity right in front of me. See, he wasn't bogged down with that. So he could spend time with his client and make that big sale. I was too busy dealing with my 500 little hot dog people. So he totally understood at that point. And what we ended up doing through our process is helping him build a gourmet business so he wouldn't miss out on those kind of opportunities either. All right. So he was a convert, essentially, over to this way of thinking. So big ideas, we can have lots of fancy ways of describing this, but they're essentially new ways for you to make money. Okay. And that's, I think, is really what my business is to help you figure out new ways to make money. And sometimes this can be challenging too, because, let's say you're selling hammers, okay? But everybody wants screwdrivers. Like the marketplace is actually asking for screwdrivers. But you're like, yeah, but I don't do screwdrivers. I do hammers. So you go out of business, all you had to do is say, well, how can I also help people get screwdrivers? But you don't, because you think, well, I don't make money that way. I make money selling hammers. So they go to business. And I go, well, if you were just a little more flexible with your thinking, and you said, well, maybe we should just help them get screwdrivers, because that's actually what people want now, then we could have made a lot of money. And isn't that really what your business is about anyway, is making money? So you can decide, are you in the business of selling hammers or something like that? Or are you in the business of making money by responding to what the marketplace is looking for? So I'm hoping the second is the way you're thinking now. So big ideas are also game changers, okay? And this is another concept or another analogy that we can use here to help ourselves get our head around this. So I believe that all business is a game. Okay. And we get into an industry, for example, and there's that's like a sports league. Okay. Like an industry is like a sports league. There's the players, all the different teams, those are the companies. There's the rules, right, of what we're supposed to do. There's the referees, maybe the regulators or something, if you have regulators in your industry. There's just sort of the tournament, we're out in the marketplace all fighting it out to win the game. And the thing is that at a certain point, we forget that it's a game. And we don't realize that whole game was invented and that we could actually create a whole new game from scratch, create our own game. And so this is what we're going to do is create a whole new game where you're going to be the only player in the league. You're going to be the champion because there's only one team. And you'll be able to do whatever the heck you want because you've created your own rules. And that's actually one way to stand out, because what you're going to do is go to your customers and say, listen, we can play the old game or we can play this new game. Let me tell you about the new game. There's another way for us to work together here, a new game. So they're game changers. And this is also a little challenging because we go, wait a minute, I can create a new game? I go, yeah, right. So this is why we've sometimes been able to come up with some incredible big ideas for people, because, when I'm talking to people, I'm going, I don't care what the old game is. I'm not in that league. Like, we just create a new one. And they go, oh, really? I can play that? And I go, yeah, absolutely. And I learned this very, very important lesson way back when, and that's actually the reason I have this business at all. Back in 1981, I was in university and I had a part-time job working at night at a steak restaurant. And it was this big chain. It's called the Keg in Canada. Everybody knows the Keg. Big chain of steak restaurants. And what a great job to have as a student. I was making like $200 a night cash and tips, which back in 1981 was like real money, right? And so it was all good. And then one night, though, the manager said, we're going to have a contest over 3 months. It's called the Lobster Contest. And we want you to try to get the customers to buy a lobster in addition to the steak. Okay, so they're all going to buy a steak when they come in here. We want them to buy a lobster as well. Well, I ended up winning that contest. I sold 1,400 lobsters, and the second waiter sold 90. So I wiped up, right? And that was my first big idea. So I didn't do the normal thing, okay? The normal game that everybody else was playing was the customer would order the steak and the waiter would say, would you like to have a lobster with that? They called it suggestive selling. Would you like to have a lobster with that? And most people said no. So I tried that for a couple of weeks and I sold like 4 lobsters. So it wasn't working at all. So I thought, well, that's one game. Maybe I can try another game. So that's what I did. I changed up basically just what I said to the customers, because I couldn't change the products. I couldn't change the price. I couldn't change the whole company or anything. All I could do was change what I said to the customers. And that's how I sold 1,400 lobsters. Now, all the other waiters, the manager, even the owner of the chain wanted to know how I was doing it. And I said, no, I'm not going to tell you because it's a contest. I'm not going to give away my secret. So I never did tell them. And and it was a cool thing. I won the contest. And it wasn't until years later that I realized that was my very first big idea. And that was what launched my business, essentially, because other people would come to me and say, look, I'm struggling to sell this, or I'm struggling to sell that. Is there another way to do this? And we started coming up with these big ideas to sell things differently, and had an unbelievable success with so many things. So eventually I wrote a book called How to Sell Lobster. It's by far my favorite book for me, but also my most popular one. It's been published in 25 countries, in 12 languages. And I get calls all the time from people who say, you know, this has completely changed how I think about business. It's such a simple story, what you did, selling lobsters, but it's totally changed what I do, how I run things. So what I want you to think about, because I can tell you yet what I did. I will tell you at the end, okay, how I did it. But you're going to get some clues. So you may come up with some ideas before the end about how I might have done it. Okay. So, but essentially, what I learned in that time back then, I've applied ever since. It's very psychological, really. And it's really the difference between sales and marketing. So I'm going to tell you at the end, but maybe you can get some ideas from what I'm going to tell you next. Okay. I'm going to tell you these 10 game changers, these big idea game changers, and you can think about what I might have said. So here are 10 game changers that you can use in your business to build the future business of your dreams. And I'm going to give you an example from each one of someone that's applied this, okay? So the first game changer, which I've touched on, is old factory plus new factory. So I'm not actually telling you to change anything. Okay? This is the first thing about innovation that we need to grapple with. Okay? Is that nobody really likes to change anything. That's why Blockbuster went out of business. They didn't want to change anything. That's why Kodak basically went out of business, more or less. And many big retailers and so on, and so many other companies, they didn't want to change anything. So I'm not actually going to change anything. All right. But what I am doing is asking you to add something. So you're going to keep running your hot dog stand. And we're going to spend, instead of 100% of our time, 89% of our time on that. And we're going to spend 11% of our time running our new factory, building our new factory, business of the future. So my belief is companies like Kodak or Blockbuster, if they had said, okay, we're going to keep running our old factory, but we're going to have another sister kind of business here, like sort of another idea going, that's about the future. So Kodak probably would have taken over digital photography, and Blockbuster would have taken over streaming video if they had just done that. So we don't want to be like them. We want to get to the future, right? And so you're going to have your old factory, and then you're going to think about your new factory. Now, I did this myself in 1998. I was running an old factory. I had 30 people working for me in a big office with lots of overhead. And it was kind of a nightmare. Okay. It was a hot dog stand. Everybody was running around doing all this stuff. But the bottom line was I wasn't really making very much money. And because the hot dogs weren't very profitable. So what I did was I just went across the Starbucks with a little notebook, and I said, what would be the future business of my dreams? If I could just start from scratch, what would that look like? And I started coming up with this idea of big ideas and new factory thinking. And we created a program called the Big Idea Adventure, which was a much more higher level business. And we've had over 5,000 members now in our program, and more than $50 million in sales at a very high profit margin. All because I said, I'm going to go across the street and work on something new for the future, something better, the future business of my dreams. Okay. So this is like so simple, and that's good because it's easy to actually do. Okay. You can find 11% of your time to go off and start thinking about the future. You're doing that right now. It's part of we'll just include this as part of that time. So here's the first example. So Nick Bloor, he's from Australia, and he heard my talk about new factory thinking. And I said, well, Nick, what do you do? And he said, well, we cut grass. And we're in Australia. We're the biggest grass cutting company in Australia. We have contracts with a lot of big cities. And I said, well, that's good. He said, yeah, but it's a hot dog stand, a lot of volume, low margins. We got to bid on a job every year. a lot of moving parts, a lot of capital involved. It's very stressful to run it, and I'm not enjoying it very much. He said, "What save me, Bill? What's my new factory look like?" And so I said, "Okay, the first thing we're going to do is we're gonna level up your value proposition. So we're going to call it something else. Instead of saying you cut grass, you're going to say you do IVM, which is integrated vegetation management. Doesn't that sound better? Right? Because it was actually a lot more things he was doing than cutting grass. Like they were working on the gardens and the trees and everything. It was like a whole environmental thing, really. Now, the other thing I found out was he had this logistics software that they were using, and they had spent like $1 million developing this over many years, and they used it in their own company to figure out exactly when to send out the crews to do the grass cutting and the gardens and so on, and it kept everything organized. It was kind of AI before AI. And I said, "Oh, there's something." So we came up with a strategy, and this was a completely different thing than he'd ever done before. What we did was we went to these cities in Australia, and we said, "You can have this system, this logistics system that we call the IVM system, for free, absolutely free, and you can use it to run your logistics in your city for all the things that you've got going on for free. Just put it on there." And so almost all of them agreed to that. Okay, so we got them all hooked up. And then we said, well, now there's other levels. There's level 2 and there's level 3. And that's 50,000 a year and 250,000 a year. And when you go to those levels, we connect all of your suppliers and contractors. We connect their technology to this technology. So it's one integrated vegetation management system. Would you like to do that? And they all agreed to it because it made so much sense. They could see how much money they were going to save. Now, the key was that those contractors had to pay $10,000 a year to be on Nick's system. So what's basically evolved out of that was he had dozens and dozens of cities, hundreds of contractors, all running on this system. And he was pulling in this monthly fees from all these people. Now, the first thing that when he realized he was doing new factory thinking was when he realized he was making money from companies that were previously his competitors. So he'd created a platform now that all his competitors had to be on, and they had to pay him to be on it. So that was cool. The other thing he did was, this worked so well, he sold his old factory. So he got, a fair bit of money for that. And then he said to them, listen, if I have a member that needs grass cutting, I'm going to recommend your company. I just want 10% of your profit on those jobs forever because I'm sending them to you. Do you agree to that? And they said, absolutely, we'll do that. So he told me, he said, I actually make more money now from my old company than when I owned it. I just can't even imagine that would ever have been possible. And the third thing he said, which was, I thought quite interesting, even for myself here, was he said, I used to think that a business was you do something like cut grass and then people give you money, right? Payment for labor, time and labor. He says, but now what happens is every time grass gets cut, I get money, but I'm not the one cutting the grass. Somebody else is doing that. So I just never imagined that as well. So what new factory thinking did was it opened up his mind to all kinds of new ways of making money that previously couldn't even have dawned on him. That's why this is so exciting, because we're doing things in a certain way, and we think that's the only way. And we realize it's just because that's how our brains are wired. But maybe there's another way to do things, right? That's what's happened here. Also, just think about how much more valuable his business is and how much easier it is to scale it than the other business, right? That's a classic new factory. Now, the next thing is to invent the future. So the second game changer is invent the future. Now, most of the time, like I say, we're not even thinking about the future, okay? So, but the future is thinking about you, right? It's going to catch up with you eventually. I see that with AI. Like people are ignoring it because they're kind of afraid of it, but eventually they're going to be so far behind, it's just going to maybe wipe them out. So, so that's not good. So we not only do we need to think about the future, we need to invent it. See, the future is something that keeps getting invented. It's not something that happens. It's not something that's inevitable. It's something that gets invented. And so you want to be one of the inventors of the future. And you want to be positioned as a future-oriented company in your marketplace. You want your customers and clients to see you as the future-oriented company because that makes you a leader. All right. So everybody talks about leadership. What does leadership mean? It means you're leading people into the future. Okay. You're inventing the future. That's what leadership is. If you're a follower, then someone else is leading you into the future. So if you want to be a leader, you got to invent the future. Now, this is Mike Lowry. And he has his old factory is fairly future oriented. His company, old factory, is called Planet. Planit. And what they've done over the last decade or so is they've been creating digital twins of buildings, mostly commercial buildings, which means they go in with these scanners and they scan the inside and outside of buildings, and they create a digital version of it that can be used on a computer or with a VR headset, and you can use it for all kinds of things to plan things for your building. So incredibly useful thing. They've done thousands and thousands of buildings. But I said, Mike, what's the future look like? And he said, well, I guess we're just going to do more digital twins. I said, no, you want to invent the future here. This is just the very tip of the iceberg that you're doing. You're actually creating a new kind of building, which I suggested he call a hyper-intelligent building. That in the future, buildings, maybe all buildings, even homes, are going to be hyper-intelligent. That they're going to be filled with all kinds of sensors, devices that will be used by an AI to gather up data and to run that building to the point where you'll be able to talk to the building, find out what's going on in the building. It'll be making recommendations about how to improve the efficiency of the building, the security of the building, the productivity of the people in the building. That's the future of buildings. And he said, is it? I said, well, it is if we invent it. And he goes, you mean we're going to invent it? I said, yeah, we're going to invent it. So he bought on. He said, okay, I'm going to help create hyper-intelligent building. Now, some of the people that work for him didn't get it. They were like, I don't get it. What do you mean hyper-intelligent building? So it took a little while, but recently they got a big contract from the federal government in Canada to create hyper-intelligent buildings. And this was a very large contract. So now everybody in the company is like, oh yeah, no, we get it. Hyper-intelligent building, right? So what he's done then is started to create something for commercial building owners to want. To want to renovate their building essentially to become hyper-intelligent because it'll be better to operate the building, but it also make the building more valuable. Okay. So we believe that all commercial buildings in the world will be sooner or later hyper-intelligent. And Mike, who now has the hyper-intelligent building process, is going to be at the forefront of creating that. So the question is, what kind of future are you going to invent, not just for yourself, but for your customers, for your industry, and for the world? What is the future you're going to build, right? That's the question. And don't think that's hard. That's actually easier than being swept away by the future. The next one is to go beyond your product and become a value hub. So what that means is we start to say, well, I don't just do I'm not just a computer company, like in the case of Apple. We can sell our customers almost anything, and we're going to create a value hub around them. So that's what I call all the array of things, this ecosystem that Apple has as a value hub. Same thing happened with Amazon, right? They started selling books, and then they started selling all these other things. They created this huge value hub around their customers. And this is how they got to be so big. So if you want to grow your business, you want to become a value hub and build that kind of ecosystem. Now, this is a great way to make a lot of money, but it's also the most challenging suggestion that I'm going to give you because our brains are wired by the olfactory thinking to say, I got to stick to my product or service and stick to my industry. Okay. So that's so ingrained that a lot of people initially really struggle with this because I'm going to lose my focus here. And I said, no, we're not going to lose your focus. We're just going to change the focus. The focus is now on going to be providing as much value as possible to our customers and not leave any money on the table at all, right? Like we're going to try to maximize the relationship value with each customer, right? So that the value hub. So this starts to really open up your thinking because it's essentially just to help people more. That's all we're really saying. I have customers. Maybe there's other ways I can help them. Why am I just sticking to this one thing? Maybe there's other things. So Rick Gowett, his business, Olfactory, is putting air filters into airplanes, commercial airplanes. And he said, yeah, it's fine, but there's a lot of competition there. It's a hot dog, And so I said, well, is there any other ways that you could help the airlines, And he says, well, yeah, actually, they're always looking for parts, that they can't find. And often because they can't find them, the plane gets grounded, it's stuck on the ground. And I said, well, are you thinking you might help them with that? And he says, yeah, well, we're thinking of that. I said, well, why don't you tell your customers that you're available to do that? So he did. And he started helping them find these parts. Now, it might be a $5 part, but they were getting $10,000 or something to find the part. It was really the searching that was where the money was. And because that got the plane back in the air. And what we did then, once we realized that this was something they would pay for, we called it the Right Now program. You need that part right now. We created a membership where if you buy products from them, you get credits for the next purchase, right? This became a website and ultimately kind of like the Amazon for parts for the airline industry. And so he puts, he sells his own air filters on there. He actually sells his competitors' air filters on there. And pretty well any part now, whether it's hard to find or not. And so this is a huge, huge thing for him because he's created a business that's worth 1,000 times more than the air filter business. But he's still selling air filters too. So essentially he did what Apple's done, right? You see, this is really what I've been, I taught him. I said, look, you could do what they do, You don't have to be running your business like Henry Ford. You could be running your business like Steve Jobs, right? Or Jeff Bezos. Like, why are you not doing that? I don't know. I said, yeah, exactly. So you can do that too. Create a value hub. The next word that's really good to have in your new factory vocabulary is become a platform business. So let's imagine that you run an airline. Okay. So let's say you're, I'll just say Air Canada because I'm in Canada, and you run that. And so you've got competition. It's a real hard business because you have one thing really selling tickets on an airline. You can get disrupted by things like pandemics or something, but it is what it is, right? But what if you were also then to own the airport? What if Air Canada bought the airport? Well, now two things would happen. Well, actually three. One is they'd be in a very good position vis-a-vis their competitors because they'd be controlling the place that the planes come in and out. So they would be in charge here, have a lot of leverage. The second thing is they'd be able to make money from the other airlines now. So they're competitors there. And thirdly, they'd be able to make money from all the other ways that an airport makes money, like the retail fees for the, all the stores and restaurants that are at the hotel, the fees for the parking, the fees for taxis to come in and out, and so on. So it would be a whole different way of thinking about your business, but give you all kinds of new ways to make money. And here's the thing, it's an analogy, okay? You're not actually going to build an airport, okay? It's going to be virtual. And it's really a mindset. And the mindset is that, oh, I could have a business where I bring people and resources together, even people who I think of my competitors, kind of, because now I've raised myself up to be a platform. I'm not in that competitive world anymore. My business is an airport. And this has been a huge, huge thing for my business. When I finally, came up with this for myself, so, oh, I'm like an airport, and I'm bringing people and resources together. So we have like 4 networks that we run as part of our business, where we really have 4 airports that we've created. And this has been a huge thing for our business. It's helped us meet way more customers and members. And it's also given us all kinds of new ways to make money. So thinking your business as an airport, a platform. So David Marinak has created a airport. His old factory is selling packaging to food companies. And, so that's been going on for a long time. But what he's done now is he's created this new factory called the Specialized Packaging Alliance. And what he's doing is he's bringing together the vendors of specialized packaging and the buyers of specialized packaging in North America, essentially the world, but he's starting with North America. And so now he's in the middle of all these transactions. And what we realized when we got started with this, there was nothing like this. Like everyone's working in isolation. We brought them together in this marketplace, which has made all these transactions much more efficient for everyone. And David is in the middle of that. And so he is in charge of the airport and is able to charge fees to everyone to be in that platform. A whole different world, a whole different, better business. And it's also helping him, make money with his old factory, because he's just meeting more people that might buy his specialized packaging. Right? So you could create some kind of network and bring all the players in your industry together into an interactive hub, right? And if you think that's kind of speculative, really think about it. Isn't that what Uber does and Amazon does and Apple does? They're basically airports, right? And even John Deere, here's a business that's been around forever. If you look at how they're designed their business, it is like an airport. They want to be the interactive field for all the activity as much as possible in the agricultural industry. So even John Deere is doing this. Very cool. Now, one of the reasons why this is a great way of thinking is because as you build up a network type business, you take advantage of what's called the network effect. And you can look up more what that means. But essentially what it means is that as you get more and more people into the network where they're all interacting with each other, they start bringing other people into it. And it starts to grow on its own at an exponential rate. So there's a certain point where it goes over that line where it starts to just grow almost out of control on its own. And this is a very good thing, because in this kind of business, as it grows, each incremental added person in this network does not create more trouble for you. It creates more money for you. That's what's cool about it. You want to have a business that takes advantage of the network effect. And there was a study done by the Wharton School of Business. And this was a great thing I came across, because I've been telling people to do this forever. But they had all the data. So they analyzed thousands of companies and said, well, which are the ones that are the most profitable? So they had 4 categories. They had asset builders, service providers, technology creators, and network orchestrators. And those are the airport type businesses. So like TripAdvisor, Uber, and so on. And that number there, that's circled there, the 5.8, what that indicates is that a company like that is worth 5.8 more times more than a regular company, okay, like an asset builder company, um, based on the amount of revenue. Okay, so let's say you had a business that was worth $10 million, like made $10 million in revenue. You could say it was worth $10 million. Okay, but a network type business that makes revenue of $10 million would actually be worth $58 million, 5.8 times more than the other kind. And it's because it has the network effect and the potential of that. So if you're building the future business here, you want to have it be set up so that you can take advantage of this network effect. That's the future. And every business can do it. Okay. Every business. It's not about technology. It's about a way of thinking and an organizing principle that is the heart of what you're doing, which is to bring resources and people together. The next thing is to assume a premium value position. Now, when you go out in the marketplace and you present your hot dog, sorry, I'm just keep calling it a hot dog. People are going to see, well, you're a lot like everybody else, right? And and that's not really that impressive. And you could try saying, well, I have the best hot dog, and even if it was the best hot dog, that's still not really that impressive. Okay, it's not really going to help you win the World Series of hot dogs. What you want to do is be at that higher level. So this is why I talk about being a gourmet chef and having a gourmet business. So you can say to the marketplace, look, we sell hot dogs just like everyone else, but that's kind of basic, right? We also have a gourmet meal. It takes everything to a much higher level. And we're the only ones doing that. So when people see you, the way you're positioned is, oh, there's all these people down below, and then there's you above, the premium provider. And once again, everyone can do this. It's not anything to do with you except how you think about your business and project that into the world. So an example of this is Meta Keating. So Meta, her old factory, is designing office space for people, renovating their office. And she does a really amazing job. But in her marketplace, there's like 10,000 other people that do exactly the same. So she's been inclined to keep her price down. So she told me, she said, well, it's kind of like I charge like $10,000 fees for doing the design of the space. And I said, that's not anywhere near enough, is it? She says, no, but I can't charge more because it's kind of like a hot dog. I said, okay, so the first thing we want to do is build the gourmet meal. So we call it the Office Alive solution, okay? And this was her premium package. And it was really about saying, I'm going to not just help you redesign your office, but I'm going to help you create an environment where everyone comes alive. So there's a lot of, really smart thinking involved in how to create that kind of thing. So that sounded amazing, right? So then I said, okay, well, what we should do then is package up 3 levels. So the small, we're going to charge $10,000. I don't want you to raise your prices. So when you do this, you're not raising your price, right? You just have that. But then you have the next one, the medium level. That's the program, and we're going to make that $25,000. And then the third level, we're going to make $100,000. And she said, $100,000. I don't know if anybody buy that. I said, well, you don't really have to worry, right? Because you haven't raised your prices. You're just giving them more choices. Says, okay. So I said, just when you go out into the marketplace and you put together, you show them what you can do. You just give them these 3 choices and let them decide which level they might want to do. And what happened is that within a month, a company called Mozilla, an internet company, hired her for the $100,000. And she was just like blown away by that, right? It was like, that never happened before. And she asked them, she said, why did you hire me? And they said, well, we hired you because you were the most expensive. You had the most expensive. That meant you were the best, and we wanted the best. And she's like, ay, ay, ay. All this time, I've been trying to keep my price down because I thought I would scare people off. And these folks are hiring me because I'm the most expensive. Well, her whole mind shift changed at that point. Like it was like, okay, not everybody wants the cheapest thing. So now she's able to give them these three choices. Typically now they would take the 25,000, but sometimes they would take the 100. This is by far the most popular strategy I give people because it's so dead simple. And cool thing is you don't have to sell because you're just giving people choices. And I'll just tell you right now that that's a clue to the whole lobster thing. Okay, that giving people choices and different levels. Okay, little clue there. So the next one, number 6, we're halfway there now. Number 6 is build your business around a big idea, not a product or service. So when you go out and sell, what you want to do is put an idea in people's minds of something new and better to become. That's the core of marketing. Like you watch a commercial for like a car company, right? And you see the person driving the car, and they're driving through, the mountains or something. And you think, I want to be that person. I want to become that person. So you buy the car. You're not buying the car. You're buying the person that car will help you become. And they put that idea in your head. Okay? So that's what the most fundamental definition of a big idea is something that an idea you put in people's heads. So Bill Simpson, Old Factory he does inventory management consulting. He said, that's a very useful thing. But to explain it, it sounds really boring. Okay. He said, and there's all kinds of other people selling that. So I said, well, Bill, what is the ideal thing you're trying to help companies accomplish? What are you trying to help them become? And he said, well, I'm trying to help them have a balanced inventory. Not too much, not too little, on a consistent basis, right? I said, oh, you have the balanced inventory model. He says, oh, okay, do I? I said, yes, you do. Let's name that. So we put that together, a story around that, and we made a logo and a presentation, and he went out and he presented that to 6 companies. And you know what happened? All 6 companies hired him. He said, it was amazing. He said, they weren't hiring me. They were hiring me to help them achieve that model, that ideal. Once they got that in their head, they had to do it, And he said, I was the only one to do it. But he was also able to charge twice as much than he would normally do because he was the only one that could help them get to a balanced inventory as far as they were concerned. So he then just continued to do this. He said, I don't have to sell everything. I just give them this idea and they want it, and then I help them get it. So what is the ideal thing that you're trying to help your customers accomplish? What are you trying to help them become? And then let's package that as an idea that will put in their heads that then they'll just have to work with you. Isn't that cool? All right. So number 7 is monetize intangible value. Let's say you go into Starbucks. I was actually in Starbucks today. And, we bought a couple of drinks and some other things. And it was like almost $30. Okay. And I go, that's a lot of money, but what am I really buying here? What I'm really buying is all this intangible value. Okay. Like it was really fun being in there, all these fun people in the store actually. And I was buying from a barista, and I ordered a venti, and it just had this whole vibe of being very premium and, and kind of a fun thing to do. That's what I was paying for. I wasn't paying for the tangible thing I was holding in my hand. I was paying for all the intangible things that were in my mind about it. So in the future, here's a bold statement, actually, is that in the future, 99% of all value that will be created will be intangible. It won't be about time. It won't be about effort. It won't be something you hold in your hand. It'll be intangible value. And that's a huge topic. I've written a couple of books about it. One's called beyond basketballs. And it meant what it means to go beyond basketballs is what's all the intangible value that you can add to your business. So Sarah Hodson, she had a very tangible business before I met her. It was a physiotherapy company. They had a number of clinics. And so people would come into their physical space and get a, physiotherapy. And their mind thinking was, well, we should open up more clinics. If we're going to grow, we have to open up more clinics. We're going to scale. Let's open up more clinics. And I said, okay, let's put a pause on that for just a second. And let's think about how we could scale the intangibles here, because that's actually much easier to scale. And I say, well, what are our intangibles? And I said, well, what's the thing you do to really help people get well? Is there anything you do beyond just giving them a physiotherapy? And he said, well, actually, what we do is we teach them healthy habits. There's like these 6 healthy habits. I said, okay, well, let's create the healthy habit model and the healthy habit program. And you can offer this online to anyone that wants to learn healthy habits and maintain them for their health. So what's we did? This was like 2018. They got it ramped up, and then the pandemic happened, and the thing went crazy because everyone was stuck at home and they needed to maintain their healthy habits. Meanwhile, their physical place was closed down, but they were doing great because they were selling these programs online. And so their scaling now was to grow the intangibles, not the tangibles. So our old way of thinking is, so my business is all this stuff I have and all these buildings I have. New factory thinking is, no, it's to scale the intangibles. Scale the intangibles. There's so much more opportunity there. And that's the subject of a whole other video I can do about what are intangibles. In the book, New Factory Thinker, the last section is, there's like 8 chapters on all the different key intangible things that you can offer that you probably never thought of offering before. So once again, I might suggest you read the book. Can't get into that right now. It's too much to say in one video. Number 8 is turn your clients into members. This is money in the bank, okay? It's like so easy to do and so powerful. And the reason is because a client, let's say a client spends, say $500 with you, a member will spend up to $1,500 or more with you. Same person, just because they think they're a member. This is the principle behind Costco, behind Amazon Prime, and all the other memberships that you can think about, is that people who have this membership consciousness buy more from you. They're more sticky to you. They don't go off to a competitor on a whim. They are also more likely to send you referrals because they're a member. So you want to create a membership program for your clients, okay? And people can be either a client / customer, or they can be a member. So Peter Turkstra runs a company called Turkstra Lumber, and he has about 10 lumber stores. And he said, my struggle is that people see lumber as a commodity, and they're always looking for the cheapest price, which is ultimately not great business. He said, we also do a lot of other things. We can hook people up with contractors. We can sell them things like lawnmowers and stuff. But it's sort of hard to get that story across because they just think in lumber here. So what he did was he created the Build It Better program. So when a customer comes in to buy lumber, they say, great, well, we can sell you the lumber, but you can also become a free member of this program. And as a member, you get an hour consultation about your project, whatever it is, for an hour. And that's a totally free thing. Plus a number of other discounts for members on other things. So most people sign up to be a member. They have thousands of members now. And when the person goes out, the coach goes out to the person's house or whatever, they start talking them up, and they really, the person realizes, okay, I really need help with this. So they say, oh, we can connect you with our network of contractors, and you'll get a discount because you're a member. And they go, okay, yeah, no, I should do that, right? So Turkster Lumber then makes a commission from every contractor, right? And then they say, oh, I see your lawnmower is broken. Do you know you get a discount on being a member on a new lawnmower? Do you want a lawnmower? Oh, yeah, I want a lawnmower. So suddenly this person is not thinking about the price of lumber anymore. They're thinking, boy, these guys are really helpful. I'm a member and they can provide me with all kinds of things that I didn't realize I could get from them. So they've taken a small customer, and turned them into a big member. This is what you can do. You got to have a membership program. It's really, really, literally worked with over 5,000 companies, and we've helped them all create a membership program, and they wouldn't go back. Now, sometimes they call them partners or things like that, subscribers, but it's the idea of them thinking that they're special, right? Special. The next one, number 9, is teach, don't sell. So I'm astounded about how many people are out there still selling stuff, whether they're making cold calls or doing proposals or being on LinkedIn or Facebook, and they're just pushing a product on people, and everybody just goes, forget it. I have no interest in that, right? It's a total turnoff, you being a salesperson. So that's why I couldn't sell any lobsters at first, because everybody thought I was a salesperson. It was a total turnoff for them, right? So don't be a salesperson, be a teacher. Be a teacher, okay? And this is also takes some people a little time to get their head around. Well, what am I going to teach them? Well, you're going to teach them everything you know, okay? You're going to teach them all your wisdom and knowledge from all the years you've been doing this, and how you know lots of things about lots of things that work and don't work. And there's so much for you to share. And not only is that good marketing, but it also could be the source of a lot of potential revenue. So Rick Scruggs, he's a financial advisor. I've been working with him for quite a while, and great guy. And you know, he's got you know, great business, but he wanted to meet more business owners. So he decided to write a book, and it, you know, it was a bit of work, but he got it done. And it was called "What's Wrong with My Thinking," which is kind of an intriguing title. And so now what's happening is he's being invited to speak to all these business groups. I just got a text message from him today. He said, I've just got back and want to talk to you. He's just given a whole bunch of talks to a bunch of business owners about what's wrong with my thinking. So he's getting in front of a whack of people, and, you know, and they're seeing him as this expert and not a salesperson, and they want to work with him. So he's been getting all kinds of new clients because, you know, he's the teacher first, and he's just trying to help them learn stuff first. And so this is the way to go. And we all have a lot to teach people. And here's something to bear in mind is that, you know, whatever you can teach people is worth 1,000 times more to them than anything you could actually do for them. Okay? Because once you teach them that, then they can do it, right? And they can take it further and so on. So we are in a knowledge economy, and you want to be teaching your knowledge to position yourself as an expert, and also to get the attention of a lot more prospects in a way that's just more in keeping with who you are. You don't want to be seen as a salesperson. That's over. That's all over. That's old factory. Number 10. This is about passive income. Now, everybody talks about passive income, but very few people ever get figured out. How do I make passive income? You know, how do I make money while I sleep? So what I'm suggesting is that you create a network of affiliates, and that you refer people to that network. So I have about 100 companies that are in my referral network, and I've made arrangements with them that if I send them a customer, they'll give me 10% of whatever profit they make. And so it's just really, it's like an introduction service, right? And I've made some pretty good money for very little effort because I've been able to connect people together. So this is, once again, connect people and resources together and then monetize that. Very, very powerful thing, right? So we call them affiliates, right? And you can say to your members, you get exclusive access to this group of affiliates. It's like, once again, I'm saying this is what Apple does, right? They have the Apple Store. They get 30% everything that's sold on there. Okay. We have Amazon, they're making a piece of the action, everything that's sold on there, right? They're connecting the people together with the sellers, right? This is what you can do. And technology doesn't even have to, can it really do it with even no technology, right? You're just connecting people. Jeff Calibaba, he has a platform business for the HR industry. It's called Game Plan HR. And it's a very cool thing. He's doing all these things I've talked about. He has a membership program and so on for HR departments of companies. And he says, as a member, you get access to our affiliate network of curated companies that can really help you. And a couple of them are benefits companies. So when Jeff has a member, he says, oh, you need benefits? You should work with this company because you'll get a membership discount and they're a really good company, right? So that brings them together. And now what happens is that every month when that member pays the group benefits premium to the benefits company, Jeff gets a check for part of that. So it's kind of like he virtually has a benefits company that he owns, but he doesn't have to own it. He just makes money from these connections. So this is how you could really scale your business, because you could say, I could have 100 different companies in my affiliate network. I don't have to own any of them. I'm not taking any risks at all. And I can refer my customers to them. And then when they make money, they send me back money. This is money in the bank. This is passive income. And it's amazing how few of us think of it. Some people do this as a matter of course, but they haven't monetized it, which is funny. But I think it's just because they think, well, that's not really a part of my business. And no, it actually is. I just think Apple sees it as part of their business. Amazon sees it as part of their business. It's basically the whole idea of the gig economy and so on, like with Uber and so on. So you can do it too, right? And once again, it could be, a real high tech thing, or it could be very low tech. It could just be a connection service, right? With no technology. Now we've done 10. I'm just going to give you this bonus one just to underline the idea of packaging. So all of this is about packaging, okay? And that's not about, cardboard boxes. It's about packaging up your intellectual property, the intangible value that you provide. And that's done through the use of names, graphics, stories, and, a unique vocabulary. So every one of the ideas I showed you had some kind of name. It had a logo, right? And the purpose of that was so people could get their head around it and see it for the high-end premium gourmet meal that it is, right? And so this is why this is such a big opportunity, because it isn't actually that hard. You already probably give your customers a gourmet meal, but you're only charging them for the hot dog. So we're going to separate those two things out and say, I can give you the hot dog, and this is how much this is, but here's the gourmet meal. It's called this. And if you want that, then this is the price for that. And it's a premium. And what's surprising is how many people, at least initially, how many people buy the premium. It's like amazing. It's like, I can't believe they're paying the premium. They've been nickel and diming me forever over the hot dog, and suddenly now they turn around and give me $300 for a gourmet meal. What the heck is going on? So what's going on is what happened with the lobster. Right? Is that I won the lobster contest. I sold 1,400 lobsters because I used a big idea. I put a big idea in people's heads. Okay, I planted it in there, and that made them buy the lobster. What I did was, I remember the first time I did it was it was a office party. I went up to the table. It was 20 people. And I said, you have a choice tonight. You can have the basic steak, or you can have our special. And the special is a steak and lobster. So what do you want to have? You want to have the basic, or do you want to have the special? And I could see them thinking about it for a second. And then they all went, special, 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 all of them, 20. Just sold 20 lobsters. And then I went to the next table and there were 4 people. It was a birthday party. 4 lobsters, 4 specials. And this just went on. And then 1,400 lobsters later. And one of the things was it was much easier because I wasn't selling. I never liked that anyway. I was just giving them this choice, just giving them information. I was letting them choose. And this is where the psychology set in, okay? Because when I said that, first thing happened was they had to think, well, what kind of person am I? Am I a basic person? I'm going to have the basic, or am I a special person and I'm going to have the special? Well, given that choice, they wanted to be a special person. So it was all about them and their self-image. Very important psychological strategy in marketing is that, okay? The second thing was it added value to the office party or the birthday party. Because if they ordered the basic, then they were going to have a basic office party. And they go, well, I don't really like this party. It's, cheap company and everything. No, we're having a special office party and everybody loves the company now. The company's great because we're having this special office party. So that word special added a lot of value, intangible value to the party in their minds or to the office party. So then I realized that, and this was the big insight in the end, was that people don't buy products and services. They buy ideas. And when we're out in the marketplace trying to sell something, we often don't realize that. So we've got the most amazing hammer. It's the best hammer in the world. So we start telling them all about the hammer and how amazing it is, and nobody cares, right? Or we tell them, well, this can help you build the dream home, your dream home. And we put the idea in this is a thing that will help them have a dream home. And they go, I love that idea. I want to buy the hammer because that'll help me have a dream home. And say, so we didn't change the hammer. We just changed the idea that was attached to it. So if you have an idea attached to your product or service that is not very interesting, like it's a hot dog and there's a lot of other companies delivering it, and they see you as a salesperson, well, they don't really like that idea that much. It doesn't really motivate them, so they say no. Oh no, over here, we have this special thing, and if you buy it, you're going to be special. You're going to be like a member, and you're going to end up achieving this amazing thing, like a balanced inventory. And they go, wow, that sounds amazing. Then they want to buy it. Same product, better idea. So this is why this is really a cool thing to do, because you already have 99% everything you need, but maybe not the big idea that's really going to help you sell 1,400 lobsters. So you can have 4 lobsters or you can have 1,400 lobsters, and it's all about just upgrading your idea that you have. So that's why I go back to the initial question I asked you. What is the big idea for the future business of your dreams? What's that going to look like? Is it going to be an old factory or is it going to be a new factory? Is it going to be a hot dog stand or is it going to be a gourmet restaurant? The choice is up to you, okay? The other choice is just actually, are you going to work on this at all? So in my mind, the worst strategy of all is just to spend 100% of your time working on your hot dog stand, your old factory, because you can never make it the future, okay? It'll ultimately get disrupted. I'm asking you to spend 89% of your time on that, okay? And 11% of your time on the new factory. Both Kodak and Blockbuster, who I'm picking on here, were both working on their old factory when the whole thing unraveled. Like they were working really hard on that. And the guy in the North Bay, and he was working really hard selling hot dogs, and he missed out on the big sale. Okay, so the worst strategy is just to continue doing the same old thing and go, I'm so busy right now. I got a lot of other things on my plate. These are all famous last words, frankly. So all you got to do is say, I'm going to spend a little bit of time working on my new factory and what my big idea is. That's what I'm suggesting is the ultimate advice. And if you would like me to help you, if you'd like me to walk you through this thinking, I can do that for free. I'll do that for free in a 60-minute session I call the Big Idea Conversation. Now, all of those examples I gave you, they all got their start in that big idea conversation. They were basically invented during that conversation. So literally in 60 minutes, by going through this process, you will have a big idea for the future of your business. So I suggest that you schedule with me, okay? And this is your opportunity. I'm always kind of amazed at people that don't, okay? And that's fine if you don't feel like it's for you. But I think everyone really needs to try this because what do you got to lose, right? What do you got to lose? I've been doing this for almost 40 years now, and I love having those conversations with people because I see what happens. I see what happens. They get this amazing big idea for the future, and they're so excited now about what possibilities are. So that's why I love doing it, right? So if you want to schedule it, just use this QR code or the link that's provided with this video, and you can schedule that 60-minute call. We will send you a little bit of homework if you want to do it, and then we'll have that 60-minute Zoom call, and I'll help you come up with your big idea. All right. So I really look forward to having that conversation with you. All right. So thank you very much. I know this was a big commitment of time and attention, and I appreciate that. And if you know anyone else, by the way, that you think could benefit from this way of thinking, maybe it's a person who has been running a business for a long time, has gotten kind of bogged down. Maybe this could give them a new spark, or it's somebody that's more or less starting out and needs some guidance about what to do. Send them our way. Get them to watch this video, and then maybe we can help them come up with a big idea. So once again, thank you for your time and attention, and I hope you have an amazing big idea day. Thank you. That's incredible.